Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Slamtown, first episode of 2024. I'm Mike Ginn. I don't even want to call him heel, but that's Dan Bakley. He likes to play the bad guy once in a while. He's never on my level, but he tries. He's like the baby face that doesn't want to be a baby face. Today we're talking AEW versus WWE. Not necessarily in the product, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. We're talking free agency. There's a lot of contracts that came up at the end of the year. Some people are now available after the releases from WWE back in September. So we're going to talk about where we'd like to see some of the faces. We're going to talk about where some of the faces actually already going or are, and then we're going to talk about the whole landscape of free agency in wrestling in 2024. Is it kind of like the WCW WWE wars where people were going back and forth? Is it a little bit different? We'll talk about that. But first, head over to fightersfirst.shop, get the apparel, get the Slamtown merch, get the Cage My IQ merch from Dan. We got some really cool stuff in there. We just put the Wrestling Life Show merch in there as well for stuff you like. If you want stuff like this, head over to Legends House. We got all the professional wrestling legends over there. Ivan Koloff, Dynamite Kid, Paul Orndorff, and Bad News Brown. All of them are over on Legends House. You can find all the links for that on fightersfirst.shop or in the description right below. But let our apparel be a part of your story. Dan, how you feeling today, buddy?
I'm feeling good. There's a lot to talk about. Of course, we've had a little bit of time off with the holidays, so now we could come back and cover all the big things with the companies.
Well, I will start off like this because Dan didn't want to let me talk about this subject. Don't hinder gender. Don't you hinder gender. And who the fuck is Hook? I'm just kidding. I love Hook. But since he won't let me talk about that, we're going to kind of mix it in a little bit, talking about Tony Khan versus Triple H. Basically, that's kind of the war right now, bringing in talent. Nick Khan doing a good job with WWE behind the scenes, but obviously Triple H is the one they all want to work with. On the AEW side, it's all Tony Khan, right? Like if you want to work with Tony, you want to work with some of the young superstars, that's where you go. Uh, there's a lot of names popping up at the end of 2024 or end of 2023. Sorry, a lot of contracts came up, right? Uh, Not necessarily big names necessarily. You got names like QT Marshall, which isn't a huge name, but friend of Cody, works with Cody in the Nightmare Factory. Probably wants to go back and work with Cody some more. You got a little bit bigger names like Andrade, who is now a free agent. You got the rumored MJF, depending on who you believe, whether he signed a year ago or if, like he says, he's like, I never lied to you. I am a free agent, and he has been removed from the AEW roster. So take it
Once
on,
again,
but take it on face value because honestly, we'll get into this later, Dan. But I actually believe him. I do believe he is a free agent. He has to go through labrum surgery or recovery, one way or the other. So he's in Costa Rica right now, chilling on vacation, no matter what. But there's a couple big dates coming up in WWE, namely the Royal Rumble, and there's also WrestleMania. And we'll talk about this later. But the night after WrestleMania that people forget about is when they really like to debut people and bring in surprises. WWE side, Dolph Ziggler's flirting with New Japan. Matt Riddle's flirting with New Japan. Matt Riddle also floated the idea of fighting Bill Goldberg in Bill Goldberg's last match in AEW. Uh, you got lesser names like Top Dollar, who we're recording this right before Hard to Kill. I hope the episode comes out before it, but if not, right before it. And Top Dollar is going to be on Hard to Kill doing rap songs, which I can only assume he'll also wrestle eventually as well.
yep.
Dan, start off. Let me know what are some of the big name free agents that are out there that I haven't talked about. Of course, Sasha Banks as well. And where do you think some of those names are going to start popping up coming early 2024?
Well, let's talk about the first name that came up right when their contracts, the 90-day no compete ended, and that was Mustafa Ali. And it looks like he's taking over the Indies right now. And literally, right after the deadline hit, he put a video out and he put down, I think it was 8 to 10 dates that he was already booked to work.
Yeah.
Of course, he can like put that in stone and have like a verbal agreement, but he can't put pen to paper until the deadline was done. And now he's doing almost every indie promotion that he can. It seems like he's taken the Matt Cardona route, where just book as much as you can, get your name out, and then if you want to do a short term deal with somebody, maybe he does. But I think he's going to focus on the indies. You might see him go to TNA for like 6 months, kind of what Cardona did, and then they just did with a few other wrestlers. And it's going to be a lot of short-term deals. That way he could get work, be home more with his kids, and then just rebuild his image up from being in WWE. He
I
was a
really didn't
decent
think
name
you
in
were going to start
WWE.
off with Mustafa Ali, but okay.
I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I think he has
Are you
the
starting
most talent out
alphabetically?
of them all.
Are you
No,
starting
I think he has
alphabetically with
the.
Ali?
I think he has the most talent out of them all, and he just wasn't used right. And it just happens sometimes. A certain company is not for you. Like Cardona did okay in WWE, but then he goes on the Indies. He blows up because he's able to be himself. He's able to do things his own way. Sometimes that works for some people. Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, we're in a world.
Then you,
We're sorry to interrupt you, but we're in a world right now, right, where it's
yeah,
like you have the guaranteed contracts of like a Seth
yeah,
Rollins and Roman Reigns. You have Kenny Omega and the Bucks and Jericho. You have those guaranteed people, right?
yeah,
And then you have the other people that saw what Cody did, saw what AJ Styles did, and kind of want to go
exactly.
quote unquote. Because I've been deep into these territory books lately with some of these legendary books I've been reading lately. But do the territories, right? They want to hop into Japan and the regional scene and the indie scene and kind of get their name everywhere and hope to drive up their value so one of the big boys come and give you a big check, right? Matt Cardona is probably the perfect example of somebody trying to follow in those footsteps of like Cody and the Bucks and how they went around the world, Ring of Honor, Japan, all the indies. But I also want to preface that there's two different types of people, right? Like when AJ and Cody did it, they already had a name, right? AJ because he had built up that star name, Cody because it was family name. So people care a little bit more. I'm not a big Dolph Ziggler fan, but I think that works more for Dolph Ziggler popping up in Japan and other
Yeah,
places for him to drive up his value than it does for a Matt Cardona who's been killing it on the indie scene. He's probably the indie king right now, like he likes to call himself. But it's not driving up his value because WWE and AEW weren't totally interested in him. Um, but for somebody coming up like a Matt Riddle, uh, Sasha Banks, Dolph Ziggler, that have somewhat of a name, this drives up your value because now you're popping up
and
on the
there's a guy
scene.
like, and then with
Ali, I think
Ali,
Ali falls more in the Matt Cardona era.
yeah, and with Ali, he's a big name that Brian Danielson is attached to, who is helping with AEW, and it could be something where he could come in after he builds himself more and gets himself more recognition. You said it yourself. You got Dolph Ziggler. He's known for being one of the best workers in the business. He just needs to build himself out of his WWE, what he was perceived as there. He wants to put himself. Doing New Japan first sounds like a great thing. Working with a guy like David Finlay, he can go around do indie scenes, and then I wind up at the end of the day think he's going to go to TNA. I think he's going to wind up going to TNA because that's great praise. They're going to need more people. The teasing a few former WWE people signing this weekend, and I think he could be one of those names. You got Mickey James. She just signed a deal to run to do a little bit of behind the
Ohio
scenes
Valley
work
Wrestling,
with
yeah.
Ohio
OVW.
Valley Wrestling. So who knows if she's going to continue wrestling in the short term? I
Well, I
think
mean,
in the
she's pretty
long
much
term,
been retired the last couple of years. She's just done
yeah,
spot stuff.
I think she'll make spot appearances, but I think she's going to focus on behind the scenes now. You got Shelton Benjamin. I think he's going to wind up going back to New Japan for a little bit. He's up there in age, but you
Ironically,
saw how well he did
I
there.
don't think he'll end up in AEW, but I think he's one of the best fits for AEW just because of his
Yes.
style and the veteran leadership he can bring to that locker room.
You got Dana Brooke, who just switched her name from back to her real name, and she's working indie events now. Who knows what she does? I could see TNA just because the talks of Trinity going back to WWE, if she does,
I feel like
that
Trinity
not
goes
gets
wherever
the.
Sasha goes.
And I think Sasha goes to AEW. I think that's where she goes. A lot of people are saying because Bailey and the Four Horsemen are on WWE, she's going to go back there. I just think she wants to be her own person. I
I
think
think
she
she goes
wants
where the
to.
money goes.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think AEW is going to offer her the money.
Mm.
She's going to The same thing happened last time. What happened then? You're going to get the limelight for like 2 minutes, and then it's going to be off of you, and then you don't know when it's going to be back on you. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the WWE way that they go with what the people are focused on, and you easily get lost in the shuffle. That's why I think Trinity should stay in TNA instead of go, and then Mercedes go to AEW. uh, they just brought in Scotty 2 Hotty as a trainer producer, and the rumor is he's going to help a little
Well,
bit
they
with the
also
women's
got Deanna
division.
Perrazzo too, who was working with
That
Trinity, who's
too,
working with Trinity, somebody she's comfortable
yeah.
with.
And I think that they're going to only get better. It's going to be a slow build. I know how Tony is with booking the women sometimes one match, but it seems to be getting better in the last couple of months, and just adding more star power is going to just make that even easier, because you could say she's going to get lost in the shuffle there, but she'll get lost in the shuffle in WWE going there, because there's only so many stars that you can have at the
So many
top with
spots, yeah.
sharp. Yeah. So unless they decide to get the women's tag division actually going for once, which is kind of start stop, they really don't commit to it fully as they should. If they did, I would say go back to WWE, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think
Well,
she goes to TNA.
well, let's pause there. Let's talk about these women coming up, right? Because obviously Mercedes, aka Sasha, is the big name out there, the big fish. I personally think she will
Yeah.
show up in the Women's Royal Rumble. I think, or come in to save Bailey from like damage control turning on her, or some angle like that. Especially like if they go through damage control through WrestleMania, night after WrestleMania, they turn on Bailey because maybe she cost Io or somebody the title at WrestleMania. They jump her. Guess who comes out to save Sasha Banks? The truth is, Sasha's going to go where the money goes, and she's already teased putting her like WWE Funko Pops on like stories, and she's teased AEW a little bit. Um, and sorry, folks, if you can hear in the background, my neighbor just decided to start his motorcycle. But the problem is with Sasha, and I blame Fightful for this. Look, Fightful's dropped a lot of dimes, but they've also gotten a lot of things wrong, especially over the last 6 months. They think they have sources, but they don't necessarily always have reliable sources. And sometimes, like Dave Meltzer, they just throw stuff at a wall and see if it sticks. But when it comes to Sasha, I honestly think she is going back to WWE. I think AEW would have already had her at least more present than just sitting in the crowd a couple times when they were negotiating with her. Uh, she said herself at the time she appeared at the last couple shows, she wasn't under contract with anybody. She's just getting her name value up there. She's just promoting herself. And when it comes to Trinity, I think you're right. I think Trinity should stay in TNA, but I do think she'll follow her back to WWE. And yeah, they're going to get lost in the shuffle because when it comes to WWE, there's only so many spots. Let's be real. If we're talking about wrestling today, Dan, there are too many wrestlers. And it's good to have AEW, and it's good to have TNA, and it's good to have all these other brands because it allows people places to work. But there's also two different styles of working. You have WWE, which focuses more on long-term storytelling now, especially with Triple H in charge. There's definitely more story in it, storylines with everything. And then you have places like AEW, which kind of copy that Mexican or Japanese style, where they throw as many people in a match as they can to try to have the most entertaining matches. But there's really only a handful of actual storylines going on at any given time. And when you talked about the women, okay, you got Sasha. We pretty much are divided where she's going to go there. Trinity, I think we're kind of on the same page, especially when they always got her husband working right there in WWE. Eventually,
Yeah.
she's going to, now or later, she's going to come home, right? But then you also got new people. Like, what do you think about like somebody like Julia, who's probably going to pop up in WWE or NXT?
Well, yeah, I was just about to mention you got Joya, you got Camille, whose
NWA
contract just
contract
ran
up,
down
yeah.
NWA. Apparently, those two names
And
are
she's
rumored to
gone
go to
because she won't
NXT.
re-sign with NWA.
Yeah, she's gone, and she's built her name up already. So I could see them going to NXT, and that's what. And then you still got Jade, who hasn't even debuted yet in the WWE, which I think she could. I think that's why Nia Jax is getting
Good push.
the limelight right now, and they put her over Becky because I feel like they're going to have a thing with Jade and Nia Jax in the Rumble, and that's why I'm going back to the whole. There's too many women that they're signing or bringing in, and that's why I think Mercedes is going to wind up being in AEW, because you have all those women. You could say in a year or two, they're all still going to be there. There's only so many top spots you can have. You can say like 4 spots, 2 on each show.
AEW is the same way
That's
though,
that's
because let's be
that's
real.
10 to
When was the last
12.
time you saw
Well, yeah.
Britt Baker in the ring? And you're
Well,
talking about
she's
somebody
been out.
who
Yeah.
was originally a pillar of the company a year ago. We were
Yeah.
talking about Britt Baker's on TV too much, and a year later, she's even joking that's the reason she's not on TV, which I'm sure has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But a year later, we don't see Britt at all. Saraya was brought in to be a big name. Saraya is in like tag matches and everything else, and then you have to mention that, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of blowback for this. Lord forbid we have a Slamtown episode where people get mad at me.
Yeah.
But AEW is a botch fest, especially with the women. I sat there and watched that match the other night with Chris Statlander and Willow and Saraya and Ruby, and you could just see Saraya at one point give Chris Statlander a receipt because Chris was being way too rough with her. And you got to remember, one little kick to the back from Sasha took Paige, aka Saraya, out for a couple years. You can't you see.
Well, that's I remember that. Let's not remember that Charlotte is out for 9 months because of a botch.
Yeah, and it happens everywhere you go. But when you look at the finished product, you look at Jade, right? You said Jade. Jade's currently training right now at NXT Performance Center, which you said she should, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
She's training with Natalya in the dungeon over at the Workhorse with TJ and everything at their house.
I gotta give I have to give props. I give props to the dungeon there, because they get every wrestlers from all the promotions. Yeah, they showed them. Ricky Starks was just there. They had David Finlay there working. They had Moose working with Angelo Dawkins. And like, if you're a wrestler and you want to hone your craft, go there, because they're doing everything there. And I have to give them the props for the work that they're putting in to help other wrestlers.
And you see it's a lot of chain wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Like they're teaching them how to flow. One thing I have a problem with AEW a lot of times is everything's a highlight reel. But Edge said it best. Edge said it on Busted Open Radio last week. He's like, 5 minutes with me, Griff Garrison, is better than 200 matches with somebody his own level. When you have names like Edge, Adam Copeland coming in, Christian, Bryan Danielson, some of these people, and I think I told you this before, you notice when these WWE guys come in, the first thing they know is where the hard camera is.
Yes.
Everything is with their eyes. And Adam said it best. He's like, all the moves are cool, but I sell the story with these. And if you do a move and it doesn't mean anything, then nobody remembers it. I was sitting there watching the Sting and Darby match from this last week on Dynamite, where it was just unnecessary bumps. And nobody's going to remember it. Like, Darby literally got thrown so hard that he knocked himself out when he hit the steel rope on the bottom rope, kind of like Enzo did. And you could see the ref immediately went to Darby because he got thrown way too far. And then Darby did like this flip in the middle of it to sell it more. And his head bounced off the bottom rope. You saw Sting do a bump where he did his Scorpion Death Drop back onto like what was supposed to be mats and a table. But he kind of missed a little bit and basically bounced off the floor. And they're trying to do the after promo of selling the Young Bucks, but Sting is clearly not 100% there. So you can see Tony Schiavone trying to talk a little bit more to cover it up. And Ric Flair
that's why when you have
to like cover it up.
Yeah, that's why when you have somebody like Orange Cassidy and his slow style, persona, gimmick, it's over, because he takes the time to like just let everybody in, sell it, slow motion. You see him looking at the camera, you see the pan in, pan out. Everybody loves him. There's really no one that hates him. And that's why they kind of put the focus on him. Like, he's like the workhorse, because they can get behind him. He's there. He actually, a lot of people don't realize he's a producer behind the scenes as well. He's put a lot of work in.
He's actually an older wrestler. People don't realize because he's been on the scene so long. He's actually in his late 30s, I think.
That's why I like the fact that once AEW was great early on. I love the idea of adding these WWE people in just for the fact that they know all the nuances with working with the hard camera, or working with storyline, they
And
can
it's
only
not just the
help these
talent, right? Because they're
wrestlers.
also bringing in
Yeah,
executives too. Like they just brought
yeah,
in the regional house show guy who's now taking over some of the responsibilities in AEW.
yeah.
So it's a free agency war, not just for talent, but it's also for executives because WWE is looking to bring back people to replace Kevin Dunn. So there's a fight there.
Yeah.
AEW is trying to bring in more WWE talent to finish up and kind of polish their production. So it goes both ways, not just on camera but off camera.
What AEW needs to do is just put everything together instead of like just like not having a plan and just like you said, go for the high tricks. If they put everything together that they have, they'll be fine. They're going to go through growing pains. So
Of
they're
course,
like, a lot of people hate this excuse, but they're only 4 or 5 years old, and you're going to have that. It's just they need to just focus on getting people behind the scenes. I love the fact that Brian Danielson's working with Tony Khan. He's only going to be an asset there. Take a little bit of responsibility away from him, and then just put the product in. You see, every now and then you see great shows. You see him doing that, but then it kind of disappears. They need to make that more consistent. And then on like a totally different
and don't forget you
avenue,
got
it's
Jimmy
like,
Jacobs now doing the QT Marshall role
yes,
of kind of like we all thought he was writing. He's actually not writing anything. He's actually
no,
only doing like the showrunner stuff and kind of like helping producing the day of shows, which is why you've seen a little bit more of a more formatted like role. It's
yeah,
also why it was so easy for them to let QT Marshall go because that's what Jimmy's
yeah.
doing now.
And then we've talked about this in different promotions, different sports. Especially look at the UFC and boxing. The only way as a wrestler that you're gonna get paid more is if you challenge the promotions and go elsewhere. And you've finally seen it in MMA with the UFC, where fighters going to PFL, going to Bellator, going to One Championship, and getting paid more money, even though they're not that big name. It's to get the huge company, parent company, to have to pay people more because even though they have the most exposure, they're not going to pay more until you challenge it.
Yeah,
You're
create a
starting to
bidding
see
war.
that now with people leaving WWE and going to AEW, TNA, and New Japan. That's why TNA is trying to take advantage of it now at the right time because of everybody leaving. You're only going to be able to do that is if you challenge it, and you have a big name like Mercedes. She can help with the trend by going to AEW
Wherever she
instead of
goes is going to be a pop.
WWE.
Will it stay?
Yeah,
Will it
yeah,
sustain? I don't know, but it will be a pop.
yeah. But it's like if they just go for a short time like Trinity and then go back, you're never going to help the trend that you're trying to start in the first place because you're just going to keep it
Are you
status
giving them
quo.
are you giving them a little too much credit there though? Because are they really trying to start
Yeah,
trying? Because let's be real.
I
You
think
can
no, I
talk
think
about a
they all because
well.
it's all about your
Give me a
worth.
give
It's
me a
all about
second.
your worth.
Give me a second.
Yeah,
You talk about a men's career, which fair or unfair tends to last decades, right? But when you talk about a women's career into wrestling, a lot of times that's a decade, maybe, and then they're gone. You look especially in the previous generations, these women today are lasting a little bit longer. But you look at their window, it's a lot shorter. In somebody like Mercedes and Trinity and Camille and Julia now, and you saw it with Kari coming back. At the end of the day, they got to get as much money as they can right off the bat because their career isn't forever. Now Sasha's doing a lot of business stuff, right? Like she has her marijuana company, she has some clothing and fashion stuff she's doing. Sasha's got obviously connections with Snoop, and that's a different story, right? But most of them have to make their money and get out. So, like, when you say the men, I kind of go with you and be like, all right, cool. They're trying to change the way things are done, create bidding wars and create. But when you say women, I honestly think they're trying to get their money and get out.
yeah. But what's the reason why Trinity and Mercedes left in the first place? It
Nobody
wasn't
knows,
because of
and
money.
don't get her mad
It
at
was
don't get her mad at a
no.
signing because nobody knows. We all
On
thought
the
we knew it.
surface,
He blew up on a fan.
well, it just happens that they had plans and then they had to scratch it because they left. It could be money, but it's also placement on the card and what they wanted to do. They were tag champs and they wanted to build it, and then it's kind of fallen on the wayside since because it wasn't being used at that time and really has been used any bit better since then. And it's like if you're gonna leave to get more recognition, go and then come back, it's not going to be primarily because of money. Money's always a factor in everything, but I think it's like getting your recognition and getting the limelight, that you're one of the faces and you want to grow that way. If you're just going to go, leave, and then come back, what makes you think it's going to be any different a year
Well, I mean, it is
later?
a different place in WWE. TKO took over.
It's
They got a lot more money
it's
going in
different, but
there,
it's still
and
this.
Triple H
It's
doesn't
still
have Vince looking over his shoulder anymore. He's finally
yeah.
like free of that. I think it is a different place. I think you have to give him that much credit.
No, it is, but then everybody uses the excuse that all the problems were Vince problems and
I
Triple
mean, a
H didn't
lot
do
were,
anything. Well,
especially when
we
it comes
that we
to
know of, that we know of. We don't
well,
know what
you don't have people
exactly was
you don't have
happening.
people
Who
tearing up the card the day of and doing a whole new show the day of.
no,
Like Triple H is like, I'm planning my stuff for down here 6 months from now, a year from now. He's trying to bring back long term storylines. Do people in 2024 have those attention spans? I don't know. But you
yeah.
see, that's where he's working. Go ahead.
I want to see these wrestlers challenge the promoters, go to where they feel like they're going to get their recognition, and then you're going to get paid for it. So I think the getting paid thing is going to happen regardless. It's where you're going to get the most recognition. I don't think that them going there is going to get it because you already have all those wrestlers coming in. Go somewhere else, build it. Like I've said this a million times, Trinity already did it, and she should continue to do it in TNA. Mercedes should go to AEW. I felt like the whole New Japan thing was going great. Then she got hurt. I don't think she's going to go back to it because I think things have changed since
Been
then,
there, done that. It
and
was a
her
buck.
injury. Well, I think it was going great until she got injured. I think that's what
Well, we
killed it.
never really saw it, but her dream was to go there. She did it.
Yeah, yeah. So she did it.
So
So
let me
go
switch
go to
gears.
the other company. So go to the other company, be a big face, and see where it goes from there. Because you're not going to be up at the top right now. It's just not going to happen. And with all those names there, I just think it's too much of a logjam. If she's okay being on the mid card scene there and getting paid, sure, why not?
All right. Well, I'll give you a chance to talk about more about that. Let me switch gears and kind of do somewhat of a
Yeah,
lightning round, so we don't spend 2 hours talking about all these free agents. I'm gonna throw
yeah.
some names at you. Tell me where you think and why you think, um, and then we'll go from there. I will also say one quick thing: wrestlers inherently, and it's human nature, are selfish by default. Veteran wrestlers will go like Adam Copeland, where he wants to do a couple new things he never did. Sting wants to do things he never did. Most young wrestlers are going to go to get that paycheck because people can say all the artistic things they want about it. For every artist that wants to be about their music and not care if they get on the pop charts, wrestlers are a little bit different. Wrestlers tend to want to get that payday because they want to, and be as famous as they can, right? So let me throw a few names at you. Starting off, you said already, we talked about Sasha. You think she's going to AEW. Another name, Julia, pretty much locked into WWE.
Yeah, I think NXT. She's already doing the English, working on the English right
Yeah,
now.
she's taking a few months to go to university to study it. It's getting a lot better already. You can see it.
Yeah,
Camille, NXT.
I think NXT. I think WWE. She's ready for the main roster, but NXT.
We've seen Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, pop up in New Japan. Is he staying in Japan? Is he coming back stateside? What's he doing?
I think you're going to see him bounce between TNA and New Japan.
No AEW with his brother.
I don't, I don't think so. I think it could be in the cards, but I think his best bet would be TNA.
I see him popping up as the Joker in one of these casino battle royals that they do.
He could.
You think Okada's going definitely to AEW?
No, I know reading and I know from sources that the reason that Tanahashi's president was a big thing with keeping Okada there.
Mustafa Ali.
I think he stays on the Indies.
You don't think he signs with
And
TNA
then
or AEW?
if he signs anywhere, it would be AEW because of Brian Danielson.
I can see that. I thought honestly he was going to retire and go back to being a police officer, but
No.
I think one of the things he does better than anybody is these vignettes, right? They hypes him up more so than you care about what he does in the ring. his vignettes are always kind of killer. And funny enough, and this is kind of a side note, I don't think people are paying attention to this, but Taylor Rotunda, aka Bo Dallas, aka Uncle Howdy, has taken over Wyndham's YouTube channel, and he's
Yeah.
been doing these vignettes, teasing that he's coming back, and
Well,
kind of like
he's still signed and he's still getting paid. So
yeah, and he's kind of carrying on that legacy of what they were trying to do in a different way. So pay attention to that. Go look up that. I'll try to drop a link in the show notes for Wyndham's channel that he's been kind of taking over. Rick Boogs, I'll skip because he said he's taking a break from the business. He's focused on other things, so there's really not much to talk about that. But what about Elias?
that's a good. I think it goes to TNA. He literally just changed. He did a vignette last week where he changed his name and did a whole like 3-minute video
It's not that much different
about
though.
it.
What was it again? It still starts with E. It's not Ezekiel. It's somebody in the show notes drop a note.
Yeah,
Comments. Tell us what his name is. I know he just changed it, but go ahead.
I think he goes to TNA.
Emma is pretty much done along with Riddick Moss. They're doing like their travel channel stuff right now.
Yeah,
I don't think Emma comes back, but I do think Riddick might. Where do you think Riddick might end up eventually?
I think he could come back there. Yeah,
You think he goes back to
I think.
WWE?
Yeah,
NXT maybe? Kind of rebuild his brand?
yeah.
I personally see him and our good friend Brandon Catino will love this. I think he's going to NWA. I think he's one of those dudes that can show up in NWA and kind of start like the indie scene, kind of rebuild it like back Cardona. I think
Yeah.
that's where he goes. Top Dollar is at least doing something AJ Francis temporary with TNA. Does he stay in TNA?
Yes.
Here's a name we don't talk about. And she had a brief run with WWE from NXT. She got kind of hot, went to WWE, had a quick thing, then she got hurt, and then she got released.
I know you're talking about.
Aaliyah, is she going to pop up in like AEW or something with all these influx of women there?
Well, I know she's doing indie stuff now, but I want to say NWA.
I can see that. QT Marshall locked into WWE.
I don't think he goes there for a while. I think
Maybe
he
like as a
sticks.
producer in NXT.
No, I hate that notion that anybody that has any background is going to go to be a producer, because then they're going to have 100 different producers and trainers there, and that's when things get crazy.
You don't think
I'm
his
looking
ties
at
with Cody brings him there? Because they
Yeah,
do
but there's
show
so
the
many
Nightmare
ties.
Factory quite a bit on
Yeah.
WWE TV.
I'm going to say that he stays in Mexico.
Oh, okay, that's a different one.
Because him and Sam Adonis are building a thing in CMLL, where right now is the top heels there. So
Well, he did
I
say
like
he
what they're
wants to
doing.
be known more for a wrestler. He wants to try to have a
Yes.
career. So, and before he gets too old, I think he's already like in his early 40s. So, at some point, or late 30s. So, at some point, he has to do it now or never type thing.
Yeah.
Andrade locked back into WWE.
Yes, but not for a year. I think he's going to do some of the CMLL stuff, and then with Charlotte being out, he's going to just take time away.
Well, her
from any of
recovery
the
is
major
going faster than
promotions.
people think. So,
Yeah.
do you think they debut back together?
Yes.
I personally, and I've heard this float on the internet a couple times, with the problem with Santos Escobar and Zelina and LWO, I personally would like to see Zelina break apart and bring back Andrade to battle with Santos as her, because she was his best manager.
Well, no. What I think is going to wind up having is you're going to have Lola Vice turn on Elektra Lopez. Lola Vice is going to go with Santos.
Poor Elektra,
And then
she keeps getting left out of everything.
And then Electra's going to go back
everybody up
with the LWO.
She built
she's
up
going to go back with the
Escobar. She built up that faction, and then all of a sudden they go to the main roster and give it to Zelina. And like now she's building up Lola, and they're going to leave her behind again. She's talented.
She is.
I don't think she has the necessary look that WWE is looking for, but they see it in the ring that she can go. Because she definitely is an older female, and a lot of times they're looking for those young, fresh faces, and that's not fair, but that's show business sometimes. And don't come at me. I love Elektra. I'm like her biggest supporter. Don't come at me.
Yeah.
But come at Triple H, come at WWE, that's kind of their thing. They want those young, fresh faces, unless you got a name, and then they'll bring back a Michelle McCool for a spot.
They want to go with the people that they can kind of mold
Yeah.
and start from scratch.
Here's a name talking about NXT, WWE to NXT, and now got fired, got made a bunch of money. She says she's kind of getting the itch, but she's not in a hurry. Mandy Rose.
Ouch.
Does she ever come back?
No,
No?
not to WWE. I think if anything, maybe she goes to like
I was thinking TNA.
AEW
I was thinking
or TNA. Yeah, I was thinking one of those.
She would be a great surprise at like a Hard to Kill or something like that, where she doesn't have to travel too much. Show up like for tapings once in a while.
Yeah. She can still do all of our non-wrestling stuff.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. They want their freedom, right?
Yeah.
Like Zelina, when she got fired, along with a lot of people that were giving up their Twitch channels, she refused, and she kept it. And now you kind of, funny enough, see people coming back. Like her and Dakota's like podcast just got up to like 15K or 19K in followers.
Johnny Gargano has been back on lately.
Yeah, AJ's been back on his stuff. So it's kind of funny now that Vince is back out of the picture, how people can kind of have a little bit more freedom. But Mandy took advantage of that. She's making millions of dollars. She went from the fan time to OnlyFans. Not that I know, but I read on the internet. Another lady that left, I was not a big fan of, but she did make an appearance in Ring of Honor. Ronda Rousey, is she done? Is she going to keep making indie appearances? Is she signing with somebody? What's she doing?
I think it's part-time. I think she wants to be a mother now. She's made a lot of money already. She has endorsements. If anything, it's going to be the once every like 4 or 5 months just to do something with her friends. Marina Shafir's there. She might do like one-offs with her.
I'm going to tease one name. You know who we're about to talk about. But before we get to him, Matt Jackson's wife just kind of quit the company. Is she stay out of the business, or does she pop over somewhere else? Because she's actually been doing a hell of a job basically running AEW's marketing.
I think she's done.
We'll assume, for the sake of this show, that MJF is a free agent. 2024 bidding war. I find it personally hard to believe that he would give that up for guarantee at AEW. But they did play off the storyline before where they gave him time off, brought him back as the devil, and allegedly gave him more money, but didn't extend his contract. That's kind of hard to believe that Tony would have him carry the belt that long. But if you're looking at it, he did business on the way out the door, dropping both titles in a week before he left. And they did a storyline where they beat his ass and sent him out the door. The one thing I will say, if you remember the last line of the pay-per-view, World's End, the announcer said, and I think it was, I'm not even sure which one said it, to be honest with you, this is the end of MJF's world. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically said this is the end of his world. And you don't say that with like, oh my God, what's going to happen to MJF or what's going to happen next. You say that when somebody's leaving. Now, I'm on record saying Tony Khan is not smart enough to take a storyline that well in advance to go. But I do think MJF would be smart enough to think of his own storyline like that. I personally think, he's showing up at the Rumble or showing up the day after WrestleMania. I don't think he's showing up at WrestleMania, but I think the day after maybe, especially if his arm really is legitimately torn up and he has to heal. And WWE doesn't need him right now. What happens with MJF?
I think he stays. I think he's signed already. I think it's all a thing, like a gimmick that they're playing off of. I think they're going to keep him off TV for a while to sell it, of course. Especially if, like you said, his shoulder is still injured. It's going to give him time to heal. You did the perfect thing to take him off TV, and it's the perfect way to bring him back. Now, everything that happened with the Tide title and the World title, you put in perfectly fine because they helped them build this stable up and do the reveal there. But then it gives a reason for MJF to come back.
The stable makes no sense. Why do they have
I
Wardlow in
think it
this
makes.
stable?
I think
I
it
know
makes sense.
Wardlow has the beef with MJF, but they're
He has the
building him
beef.
to be
He
his
has the
own
beef with
guy,
him.
and now all of a sudden he's like falling in line with another fact.
Like I said, Adam Cole's hurt. He had to do something with it, and Wardlow's going to be the guy to take it over. And then you're going to wind up having the thing where he's going to wind up getting kicked out or leaving the group because he's not
Exactly,
going to
because
give
once
the.
Adam gets healthy, he's not giving that title shot to Wardlow. He's taking the title shot.
Well, Wardlow's going to be the champion.
Eh.
That's why the whole thing works out. It's very obvious. He's going to wind up leaving the group because he's not going to get the belt
You think they're
to
going to do a
Adam
Batista thing?
Cole.
Like
Yes,
Batista Triple H all over again?
yeah, they're going to do that, and then uh, you're going to get MJF come back, and he's going to get his revenge.
All right. I'll finish off with a couple speculative things coming up. We're talking about free agency, so we have to talk about this. We
Yeah,
don't know if Drew McIntyre signed an extension. We do know he was having issues. Then they brought him back to TV and worked some issues out. He's allegedly a free agent early this year. Does he stay at WWE?
it depends on what happens in the next couple of months.
Because he's somebody who knows what it's like. Life is like outside WWE. He's traveled the world. He did that route we talked about, building your name up
Yeah,
and coming back. So he can easily go somewhere else. He knows that.
he went to TNA for 2 years, and yeah, did a great job. And that's kind of how LA Knight got his recognition, was being with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, and that was pre AEW days, so you can only imagine they
Yeah,
probably would have popped up there too if that was an option. Uh, Here's a big name coming up this summer, which I personally don't think there's any way WWE lets him get to free agency. But Seth Rollins, his contract's up this summer.
he stays.
Him
And
and Becky.
that's a pack. I was gonna say that's a package deal.
You think him and Becky are locked in forever? WWE.
They're either locked in together or they're leaving together. So
Ooh, ooh.
it's
Um,
not one and one. It's you got to take both of them.
this is later this year, but all of New Day's contracts are coming up this year, later this year. Big E, which we don't know if he ever returns to the ring. Xavier and Kofi. Are they lifers in WWE? Especially with the up, down, down, and all the other
Yes.
stuff they do. No chance they jump ship.
No, but just because of up, down, down.
Fair.
I think I think he's dedicated to that. WWE has been very lenient and they've been very great with help promoting it. And I think that's his way of giving back. Is if he's not wrestling, he's just going to do that.
Kevin Owens is due up this year.
I think he stays.
He almost jumped ship last time to go join his friends, the Bucks, and they
He
talked.
almost did,
They got that negotiation done.
and then they had that big tag
And
storyline with him
he's
and
the
Sammy.
epitome of what you were talking about earlier, where they bring him in, put him up top, and then the roller coaster, and he disappears for a little while, and then he comes back up, and then he kind of goes back, and they keep him around, but he's not necessarily in the top of the
Yeah.
picture. He hasn't been in a title fight in a long time. Depends on his ego, I guess.
Well, he's gonna title shot at Rumble, so
And I'll tell you one other guy, and I'll kind of jump the gun on this one. We just talked about Jinder Mahal earlier with the whole thing going on with Tony and Eric and everything else. Jinder's a free agent this summer, and I could see him jumping to TNA and making a killing like Drew did.
oh yeah,
Build his stock back up. Because he's one of the most behind the scenes. People love Jinder because he works his ass off. His body is always $1,000,000, whether he's in the ring or not. And you take somebody like that, give him a spotlight in TNA, not even AEW, because I don't want to see him go to AEW. I think you build him up to, because like you said, he'll get lost in the shuffle.
yeah.
Like you brought in Miro. What's Miro doing? You brought in Andrade. What did Andrade really do other than like towards the end of his contract, they try to put him back on TV for a little bit. You don't really, there's too many wrestlers and there's too much TV time. There's not a cream of the crop thing anymore. We're not looking at the NBA and WWE is like the top of the line, and then you got all these other places. There's too many places to work now. So everybody has a spotlight, and not everybody is a star. And you can all want places to work, which is fantastic. We all want everybody to have a job in the line of work that they dream to do.
AEW could get away with it if they stuck to having guys on just each show.
They would get away with it if Tony Khan would let up some of the control.
they do it. Some of the people that only appear on Collision and some people only appear on Dynamite. If they do that, they could get away with it.
They need to hire
Just
writers.
for some reason, it's for some reason WWE and AEW, these brand splits, it's just they're not a brand split. It's just it's a show split where we have
Well,
two
yeah,
different
look at
shows
Cody.
and then we
Cody's
act
supposed to
like
be on Raw, but Cody shows up like every SmackDown. Like what?
exactly. Well, that's what all these wrestlers do that, and seeing here on AEW, it's like you say brand split and you don't believe it anymore. They should just call it something else.
I don't believe in the brand splits. I think they're horrible for the product, the multiple
Yeah,
champions. Let's be real, and I told you this offline. The problem with New Japan, in my eyes, while the action is fantastic, there is no story because most people are coming in for a tour, coming in for a show. They're not coming in for long term. And everybody has a freaking title. Like you went from taking a couple titles that meant something else and kind of combining it into a New Japan title throughout the years, like the former WWF Junior Heavyweight title. You talk about some of these international titles that became like the IWGP from, the JWA days and different promotions in Japan joining and merging, and they all made sense. And then you started doing things that were like, okay, well, we want to cross weight lines, so we're going to do the never open weight challenge and stuff like that. Now everybody has a title. Literally, they did Wrestle Kingdom, and everybody changed hands with a title. Even some people that aren't even staying got a title. It just doesn't make any sense. Everybody's a title, and AEW is kind of following.
I think it makes sense in New Japan because they have a big roster and they use everybody. It's not like they don't use everybody; they actually use all the wrestlers, and then they have different things where those titles mean something. Like you got the best of the Super Juniors, you got the G1, you got the World Tag League. It all gets used, and you see them. The only ones that I never really got was the New Japan Strong titles, but I did when they used the Strong shows.
That only
But they
made sense
haven't
when they were
used
trying
them.
to come to America. Once they gave up
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
expansion thing, then it went nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's the free agency side of things. Obviously, one other little bit thing that happened this week was Tony Khan and Eric Bischoff going back and forth over Tony being kind of sensitive to people complaining that Hook was getting the title shot. I will tell people this, and Tony drives me crazy because he is the king of AEW, right? Like he's the general manager, the president, the booker, the business. Like his business card has like 5 titles, right? And one of those is head of creative. And Hook is 28-1, but who booked him to be 28-1? Like it's not like he chose I'm gonna win 28 matches and only lose one to Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. He booked you to be 28-1. You can't make fun of Jinder Mahal being off TV for a year or losing every match for a year and coming in and getting a world title shot. Guess what? If you want to talk about legitimate storylines, Jinder's a former world champion. Hook only has the belt his daddy brought in. And I actually like Hook. The problem is every week Tony Khan, and this may affect free agency, kind of wrap up this talk episode. Every week Tony Khan turns more into WCW Eric Bischoff. The arrogance, talking about the opponent, what they're doing, putting WWE, trying to put WWE on blast, but really all they're doing is when you mention the opponent, they go watch and see what they're talking about. WWE doesn't mention AEW. Unless it was like a joke.
No, that's not true because they do. They just did it last week.
Okay, to your point, you're right. But it's rare. It's very rare. Like Billy Gunn doing a ceremony, like, oh, that little pissant company, Vince will buy it. Blah, blah, blah. Look, they talk about it usually pretty much demeaning. They don't ever really talk about it. They don't talk about opponents at all. You talk about now Triple H is feeding more of the wrestling history into Michael Cole's ear, like, hey, don't be afraid to say, hey, this person used to work over here, or this person used to do that, because they have a legit history. But they don't talk about it as like, hey, this is happening this week. Don't go watch that show because Mick Foley's going to win their title. He used to be Cactus Jack here, but he's Mankind there. That's what Tony Khan's repeating. And Eric Bischoff, of all people, has been down that road. And I honestly, I see it. I see him keep commenting here and there. He's trying to keep Tony from repeating his mistakes. He's like, I've done this dumb, stupid stuff. If you want to have a company that lasts 30 years, stop. Like, focus on you. Focus on your brand. And stop talking so much
I don't
about
think
WWE.
I don't think he is, because even when things are going good, he's doing that. Even when they do something that's good, he does that. They do something bad, he still does it.
He needs
I
to.
don't think he
You
is.
talking about Tony or
I
Eric?
think Eric.
I mean, Eric's job right
Eric's
now
being
is to talk. Like, he's a podcast guy,
yeah. Eric's being Eric. He's just shooting things at the
but
wall
he's
and
not
hoping
wrong.
something things.
But he's not wrong. Tony Khan
I
is so
don't.
sensitive to every single thing that says on the internet versus actually just
Personally,
worrying
I think
about
he
his
should
product.
just. Personally, I think he should just go off of social media and things would be fine. I don't
How do you
think
tell a billionaire
that
what to do?
you can, but I don't think that a lot of that's true, though.
If Tony Khan wants to have a company 30 years from now, that we're still talking about his competition for WWE, and like you said, they're only 5 years old. We have to give them a little bit of slack, right? They're building. They're going to have growing pains. But if they don't want to turn into TNA or even WCW, there's certain things that Tony Khan has to do, and every business learns this the hard way, whether it's running fighters first or it's running a big company like AEW. Eventually, you have to hire people that you trust, or you have to be forced to trust to do things and take yourself out of it and be an executive. And at this point, he wants to have his hands in every single thing, and that has pluses and minuses.
I warned everybody, all the fans that wanted that I warned them years ago. This is what you're going to get when you ask for it, because the fans asked for it. The fans didn't want any of the elite with any power. They complained about it. So what did Tony do? He listened to the fans and took it away. And this is what happens now, because you have
The
just one
companies
guy
they
in
built.
charge. And yeah, and because everybody weren't happy, because they were saying, "Oh, they're booking themselves a certain way. They're keeping themselves out. They're making this a problem." That's part of the reason why Cody left. Everybody thinks Cody left
He tells
because he
people it's
wasn't.
personal reasons. He'll tell you it's personal. And
I
that's
don't
the
think.
personal thing with Tony Khan.
I think he. I think the main reason he left was just because he wanted to focus on wrestling and getting the belt that his father, that eluded his
I
father.
think that was temptation, but I don't think that's why he left. Because if you look at it, he said he only left for personal reasons, and even Tony Khan was
I think he
against
couldn't
him.
handle. I think he couldn't handle wrestling and being behind the scenes at the same
Even Tony
time.
Khan was against him leaving his boots in the ring. Tony's like, "What are you doing? You can't come back from that." Tony Khan was against him, saying he would never challenge for the world title if he lost against Chris Jericho, and he only went for the TNT title after that. Tony never wanted to underbook Cody. Cody underbooked Cody.
Yeah,
And that was before Tony started
exactly.
taking in some of the things that he did. I don't think Cody ever had plans to go back to WWE until it became a thing where Tony was like, "I'm taking more and more of this power. You can basically run the booking sheets or run whatever executive role I gave you on the side over here, and we're going to go from there." And now you see that with the Bucks and Kenny, who just signed 4 years of extension because they basically said, "We built this place. We don't want to leave this place." CM Punk is out the door soon. If not, he will be soon at that point. And they were like, "All right, we'll stick around because this is our house." But you already saw Matt Jackson's wife leave. And I can only think they're basically just talent at this point.
Yeah, and that's what the fans wanted, and now they're kind of going against it. It's like, you wanted this, so why are you complaining when this is what you asked for? Just like,
This is
and
turning
it
into a
brings me
different
to
episode.
and it brings me into the gender thing. I'm like, make this make sense. If you're going to complain about that, complain about the way gender's being booked in WWE right now. You can't just complain about AEW or TNA. Throw it against WWE. Yeah, like, you can say what you want about Hook, but at least he's wrestling. You got a guy in gender who hasn't wrestled in over a year.
That's not
come
true. He
in
pops up. He pops up. He's lost like 8
wrestling.
matches in the last year. No, he's lost like 8 matches. That's what Tony said. He hasn't won.
I think it's like I think his last match that he wrestled was for the in NXT for the title when Braun
was just
was
like
the
2 months.
champion.
No, he wrestled a couple months ago.
That was like over 6 months ago. It was over 6 months
He's
ago in the
popped up in
summer.
WWE a couple times. I think that was
And
Tony's point. Tony's point is that it wasn't that he
gonna,
wasn't wrestling; it was that he'd lost every match. But it's not.
and he was
WWE
getting
is
a title
about,
shot right away coming back.
Well,
That's
he had
thing.
a title shot because he talked his way into one. He is a former world champion. It's not like
Yeah, but that
he's
doesn't mean
somebody that.
anything if for you to come back
Okay, well,
basically after a year and
Abaddon
get a
hadn't
title
wrestled in
shot.
like a year. Did one 4-way match, won a 4-way match, and all of a sudden she got a title shot.
Who?
Abaddon. She
She
literally
wrestled 4 or 5 times
she
just
won
that
one
month, and
match,
then she wrestled 3. No, no,
one match
she was
on the 4-way,
one match that you watched.
and then she got a title shot.
She was on the show every week. She was on Rampage competing every week.
Come on, man. AEW hasn't cared about records in a long time.
It's not about the records. It's about being there and wrestling. Like I said, you can't just pop up after a year and get a
That's not how
title shot.
WWE works.
And
WWE
that's why
works on
people are complaining
WWE
about it.
WWE is no. First of all, no.
I,
One person is complaining about it. No,
no,
nobody
no,
complained on the WWE side because
no.
we're used to
I know at
WWE
least
doing
20
stuff.
people that
Bill
complained right
Goldberg can
away
show up
after it happened.
tomorrow. Bill Goldberg can show up tomorrow for a title shot in WWE. Nobody,
And I complain about it.
but nobody's surprised. That's how WWE.
That's not no one's
WWE
surprise.
doesn't care about your record.
I think
WWE cares about the story.
I think that's a double-edged sword where it's like you can't just say, "Oh, we're not surprised. We just expect it from WWE." That's like
it's a different brand.
I hate that excuse.
Different product. It's a different product. It is not.
It's a different product, but it makes no sense, and that's why the fans are pissed off that Jinder is getting a title shot right away.
They're not.
It makes no sense.
They're not. More people are actually. Look at social media trending. More people are defending Jinder than they are defending Hook getting a title shot.
No, they're defending the comment that was made. They're not defending the fact that he's getting a title shot. They're defending the fact that
First of all, Dan, stop hindering Jinder.
I'm going to hinder him all day. And I like Jinder.
Bully Ray.
That's the thing. I like Jinder.
Bully Ray. Big Pop. Look, I'll finish this episode like this. You can get the final word. That's the difference, right? We're talking about free agency. That's the difference. I can't believe this episode went almost an hour. But that's the difference. You want to go sports entertainment. You want to go entertainment. You want to go over here, entertainment, money. It's money and entertainment. The wrestling is secondary because the moves are just a way to tell the story. That's how WWE has always been built, from the tradition up to entertainment. They've transcended to where the moves don't mean anything if there's not a story behind the moves. AEW is wrestling. It is action. It is throw everybody in the ring, give them a couple minutes of time, and see what they do. And that's where you have the difference. Do you want to be an entertainer, or do you want to be a wrestler? Do you care about the money, or do you care about the art? And yeah, you can get paid in AEW because there's a bidding war right now. But you also see the same people running over for the greener pastures, the Miros, the Andrades, all those people wanting to go back. They want to go back, Cody. Like, they want to go back. Dan, I'll leave you the final word. We talked about a lot of these free agents. Tell people your last thoughts.
There's a lot of wrestling out there.
Speechless. Yes, I win. All right.
No. There's a lot of wrestling out there. Whatever's your cup of tea, go towards it. You don't have to force yourself to watch one product. Watch whatever you like. Just like you said, I feel like there's a little bit of everything in each promotion. Whether you like the wrestling,
we're fans.
like
we'll watch it all.
Storytelling, go to wherever floats your way. You know, I like a little bit of everything. I'm more on the wrestling side because it's wrestling. That's in the name, wrestling. So I'm more into that. But I like the storylines and some of the storytelling that goes with it. But I favor a little bit more of the wrestling because that's what we're watching on TV is that. But I also like the opposite. Whatever goes your way, watch it. That's what it's here for. That's why you see
right?
All the wrestlers jumping from brand to brand, show to show, promotion to promotion, because they're trying to find their sweet spot in wrestling.
Well, leave us your opinion, right? Because there's a lot to unpack there. Leave a comment. Dan and I went way longer than we usually do.
Yeah.
Next week we'll be back to talk about the TNA name change. We were going to do it before, but I wanted to wait off until Hard to Kill, see what they do, see what their surprises are. And then we can kind of talk about what to expect going forward. They didn't even do a real episode this week. They just did a best of as build for the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. I think next week they start doing new episodes again of TNA's Impact Wrestling. In case you were confused about the name change, in case you were confused. Give Dan a follow. Cage IQ on Twitter, Cage My IQ on everything else. Of course, mine is down below as well, aka Mike. Give us a follow. Let us know your thoughts on the show. Drop a comment right below. And we'll see y'all next week. This is Slamtown. We're out.